Some new details in the Hillary Clinton email investigation as summaries and notes that were turned over to Congress show a possible backroom deal between the State Department and the feds. House Oversight Chairman Jason Chaffetz telling Fox News, quote, in return for altering the classification on documents, the possibility of additional slots for the FBI at missions overseas was discussed, and he added by calling this, quote, flashing red light of potential criminality. Let's bring in Adam Hodge, Director of Communications at the Democratic National Committee. Adam, good morning. Good to have you back on the program.
Martha, it's a pleasure to be with you on this Sunday.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I keep thinking I'm in the morning, but it's afternoon today. So, let's talk about this a little bit. Obviously, this is a very disturbing suggestion that someone at State would suggest to the FBI, listen, if you just remove that classified marking from those documents, we would appreciate that. And then in a subsequent conversation that's very close by, say, yeah, we're willing to consider those extra slots for FBI in overseas places. I mean, it stinks, if nothing else.
Well, Martha, let's just remember why these are out there in the first place. The intelligence community was abundantly clear that they think Russia was behind this attack on our democracy. And look, almost every day I walk past a file cabinet in the basement of our party. And it was the file cabinet that the Watergate folks broke into. This was just a 21st century version of that same crime, and it should offend all Americans regardless of their party.
But back then we didn't discount what was actually found in the files. Why should we now?
Because I think we don't know if they're real or fake. Just this week, we found out that there was a fake op-ed submitted supposedly from us at the DNC to the New York Times. And nobody at the DNC sent it. It was a fake document. It was a fake op-ed, and we were all
I completely understand
we don't know what's fake or what's real.
I completely understand the reason why the talking points from every single Democrat on this issue seems to be, let's not talk about the substance of it. Let's talk about the fact that it's all coming out due to a Russian hack. However,
it's a hack that should offend every American.
This is the same Patrick Kennedy who did the Benghazi Accountability Review and from the State Department, and never interviewed Hillary Clinton as part of that investigation. So, I mean, for that reason alone, there's reason to question whether or not Mr. Kennedy was looking out for Hillary Clinton. Now, don't you, as an American, believe that's a question that needs to be answered?
Look, Martha, one thing I know from my time in government is that the classification of documents can change depending on where things are. I think what you heard from this morning from Tim Kaine was that in his experience on the Armed Services Committee, that happens to him all the time. So I think one of the things that we can't forget. But it's not usually change in exchange potentially for opening up new FBI slots overseas. I mean, that is not, we all understand that sometimes one department classifies a document and another doesn't. That's been the basis of Hillary Clinton's defense on all of this. And, the American people will have to decide if they think that's a legitimate reason. But in terms of opening up slots for FBI overseas as part of some sort of agreement, potentially, we don't know if that's exactly, if it was a quid pro quo, but it looks like it might have been. Isn't that something that would concern you? I think, look, Martha, the point is that we don't know. And I think we don't know because these are all of these documents are coming out because the Russians hacked into the Democratic Party. And they're doing this for one reason, to influence the election on behalf of Donald Trump. And the real question that Americans should be asking is why won't Donald Trump admit that these documents were hacked by the Russians? It begs the question, if Mike Pence can accept it,
yeah, but
why can't
I don't think you
Trump?
have to look at one thing to the exclusion of the other thing. I mean, I do think that all Americans are concerned about Russians hacking into any of our systems, and certainly no American wants there to be any impact from that on the United States election. I give you that 100%, okay?
Yeah.
But we also can't ignore the things that are being revealed here. And if there is a too cozy relationship between the State Department and the FBI, especially when they're in the middle of investigating the former department head, that would be problematic, would it not?
Look, I'm gonna take my my guidance from the director of the FBI who said that he saw that there was nothing wrong here. I think again the real crux of this issue, the real crux of this matter, is that these were documents that were stolen by the Russians to attack our democracy and influence our election. And again, that's I think the most important thing.
I think people can walk and chew gum at the same time, and I think they want to know the answer to both of these questions. I also want to ask you about these transcripts that are starting to come out from the Wall Street speeches, because we heard so much about this during the primary. Bernie Sanders very much wanted to know what was in those speeches. She made $675,000 that was paid to her by Goldman Sachs to speak in front of them. And now we know a little bit of what she said. She talked about the importance of free trade, sounded a skeptical note about financial regulation, and said the political system would benefit if more successful business people ran for office. In light of that, she has said she's against TPP. Is she?
I think she's been very clear that where we ended up with TPP, the protections for workers, wasn't as strong as she would like. But I think what you've heard, what you've seen from these speeches is what she said in public is what she said in private. She's talked about closing the carried interest tax loophole. She has talked about, that we need more oversight over the shadow banks in our system. We need to make sure that Wall Street reform, it works and that it's stronger.
But is she for free trade and open borders or not? Because she has sung a very different tune in public than in private on that issue, and it really is one of the most central issues that has been discussed in this campaign. So if she does become president, will she support TPP? Will she change her mind on that? Do you believe?
No, I think she's been very clear that she is opposed to the agreement as it's currently written. But I think, I think when it comes to open borders, she's been very clear that she's in favor of comprehensive immigration reform, and she's going to work with Democrats and Republicans to make it law in her first 100 days. That's the kind of leadership, that's the kind of vision that the American people want to hear out of the person that they're going to put in the Oval Office. And that's why I think she's doing really strong on this campaign right now.
All right, Adam Hodge, we thank you very much for coming in and answering our questions.
Always a pleasure, Martha.
Appreciate it. Good to see you.